Hello. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Managing Transitions, the Autistic View Masterclass. And over the few years that I've been hosting open online events, for parents, professionals, or teachers, or anything else, this has by far and away been the most popular class I've ever done. I've been kind of speaking, and I was on the after dinner circuit before COVID. I've done plenty of virtual stuff, even through the last 2 years, since COVID took hold of the world and Zoom became the trendiest thing in the world. And this has by far and away been the most popular. A bit of background to this actual class, because this is the last one. This is the last one we're running for at least a while, till at least the summer, if not later. So anybody that's here tonight, well done on getting a ticket for the last one, because what the free open masterclass, the ones that we ran, they didn't have a Q&A element because they were too big. Now, we tried it, but it didn't really work. But with this one, I've specifically wanted it to be a smaller, kind of more intimate audience, which I think plays to the kind of the session really, really well. So thank you so much for coming along. I really, really appreciate it. For everybody here live, if you could put your questions in the Q&A tab, whether it's at the bottom or it's at the top, depending on what your Zoom setup is, whether you're on an iPad, a phone, any other tablet, a laptop, or whatever, the location of the Q&A tab will be different. And please interact with me as we go. Interact with me, please do so, because I want to keep this as interactive as I possibly can as well, to give you the most value for coming along and actually seeing it. So, by the way, I needed to address this, because with the NTI logo and my face, I have a friendlier face than that. So please don't be fooled. If you ever see that promo picture again, because it's in all our promo materials and I can't get rid of it, I can't kind of distance myself from it, just know that I'm much more civil than what that picture would actually suggest. So I just wanted to go over briefly what we're going to cover through our lovely time together. Okay, we're going to look at the main reasons autistic young people struggle with transitions. And for me, what I do for families and autistic young people, other than running NTI, I coach and mentor autistic young people to get through transitions, to build up confidence, to build up their self-esteem, their self-advocacy skills, to be able to form better relationships and live a more independent life. Because I had to do it, we all had to do it, and there's one reason autistic young people struggle with transitions. Now, people would think that autism is the cause for not being able to manage transitions. It's not. Okay, I can categorically say it is not. We're going to look at how autistic young people and parents can overcome this one challenge, right? There is one challenge. Now, there is going to be a lot of handy tips and pointers throughout that will give you immediate value and immediate change. Okay, immediate. Because it's all down to attitude and what way your perspective is angled. Okay, and that's going to be explored in depth within the secret ingredient, because there's one secret ingredient that ensures that autistic young people can manage transitions effectively. One ingredient, it's tried and tested, it's figured out, it's proven, and it's not just like a specially developed autism tool or any of the other marketing rubbish or nonsense that you'll see out there. This applies to everybody in life, parents, everything. It's one thing that guarantees success, because success is figured out. Okay. Then we're going to look at becoming a proud and independent autistic adult, all the checklist in there. And then I've got a special gift for everybody who's attended at the end of the class. Okay. So it's a nice wee present for everybody, which I hope that you enjoy, which will be and along with the recording as well. So I want to give a bit of a background about myself, right? Where in reality, Most of my work comprises of Neurodiversity Training International, and what we are is we are a course design, content design, business strategy, non-profit consultancy that operates in business spheres, profit and non-profit, to have a better impact among the autistic community, design their coaching and training and mentoring programs, take them to market, automations, and everything else. Where we are an autistic-led firm, we're a heart-led firm, we're global, we have partners in every corner of this perfectly spherical world that we have, and it's really my baby, and I absolutely love it. Also, before I had got into kind of autistic advocacy and stuff like that, I was a social worker for 9 years before I did this. And whilst doing that, I was mentoring autistic young people to achieve their goals, realize their potential, form better relationships at home in order to go out into the wider world and lead a truly independent life. Okay, I'm autistic myself. I was diagnosed when I was 11, and this was back in the early 2000s. I was born on the 7th of August, 1990, at 4:10, and have been autistic since then. The day and hour I was born, literally, where I grew up in a pretty standard Irish Catholic nuclear family of one mum, one dad, one older sister, one dog called Barney, sadly, who's no longer with us, and one picket white fence. My dad was an accountant, so I was at home a lot of the time with my mum. My sister being a few years older, she was already at school. And it was quite clear early on in my life that I wasn't quite like my older sister. Where my favorite thing in the whole world to do, what really, really brought me joy, was lining up my toy cars on the windowsill of my parents' house. It was my favorite thing to do. I absolutely loved it. And it really, really made me happy. And whenever I wasn't walking by the time I was 2 or talking, of course, my parents were worried, and they took me to our GP, who said, "I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Morrow, but Jude's probably a little bit slow." And they disagreed. They always knew that I was intelligent. I just did things in my own way. I interacted with the world that little bit differently, and I shouldn't have been ashamed of it. But the bottom line was I didn't meet the milestones in as quick a time as the health visiting manual said I should have, which was hard, to me to cope with. It was hard for me to come to terms with. And I knew very early on in my life that I wasn't quite like other kids, where I always just loved lining up my toy cars. It was my favorite thing. I didn't really like to play with other kids. I socialized bits and pieces here and there, but I was more withdrawn. And it's quite a journey now from whenever I was, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Whenever I didn't really speak to many people, or I didn't really do much. Couldn't walk or talk as well. And now at 31, nobody can get me to sit down or shut up, which has been, quite a transformation, quite a journey over the years. But for me, I lived a life of can'ts. Jude can't socialize properly. Jude can't play properly. Jude can't communicate properly. And all the while I had to sit beside my parents while professionals were telling them this. And I was like, oh, I'm sitting right here, So my experience of growing up as an autistic boy into autistic man, into nearly autistic middle-aged man, it's no different than any of you here. It's no different than any of your kids will be going through. And that's comforting in one way. Like, that's why, the mentoring that I do is really, really effective, because I genuinely do know what they're going through, because I've been there and had overcome it myself, where often you get professional stuff saying, oh, that must be very hard for you. And I know how hard this must be for you. And I'm like, no, you don't. Where there's sort of like a disconnect, because people view autism and being autistic in such a negative way. And whenever I used to line things up and stack things up, that was called inappropriate play. But I was the one who had to change I used to whisper things like under my breath whenever I was learning to speak. It's called echolalia, very, very common in autistic children, but that was called having poor communication skills. And then I was the one who had to change. I don't really like playing games with more than two people either. I don't really like mixing with people. Even now, I don't like going for lunch with more than a couple. Not a big fan of weddings. And that's called having poor social skills, whatever they are. And I was the one who had to change. Are you seeing a pattern here? Are you seeing a pattern? Where that's, it was all, the onus was always on me to change all the time. And eventually I grew up, I became a social worker and had a son of my own. And you may think here and now, because funny enough, I was just talking to my mum, my wonderful mother, about half an hour ago. It was just before I came on here, came into the room, and I just asked her, just out of interest. I said, whenever I was 6 or 7, did you ever think that I would have a family of my own? And she was like, no, to be honest. And I do. I have a wonderful other half called Penny and 3 kids. So with Penny, because I'm autistic and my partner and wife to be is called Penny, we get called Sheldon and Penny. Ha 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 ha. So I have a sense of humor now, and don't always take everything too seriously. I like to bring a bit of fun to it. But it was only whenever my son was 3 that I realized that I needed to, I suppose, go on a journey of my own. Because whenever I came out of college, I wasn't always as defiant and proud of being autistic as I am now. I had it until I was 25. I didn't come out publicly and talk to anybody about it until then. And that's like a long, long time ago. Like to live not being comfortable telling people that you're autistic. And I used to hide everything. The change, the constant ever-changing landscape of being a dad was really hard for me. Whilst trying to balance a professional social work career and everything else. And he asked my mum, why does daddy always look so sad? Daddy being me, because I'm an autistic dad to a non-autistic son. Huh. I'm basically an autistic dad to neurotypical children. So it's a bit of a narrative shift. And that was the journey I had to go on to accept myself, build up more confidence, and now I help others to do exactly the same thing. And I actually wrote about my experience in my first book, Why Does Daddy Always Look So Sad? And that won the gold medal at the Living Now Book Awards last year. I was really surprised. It's like, whoa, that's a really big award. And other than that, I'm a touring motivational speaker. I've done 2 TED Talks. Nobody can get me to shut up. I turn up everywhere. And I really love what I do. And I love imparting my knowledge, wisdom, and even mistakes onto everybody else in order to try and prevent them from happening again. My books are published by Beyond Words. They're the publisher of The Secret. They publish my books. And my most recent one is Loving Your Place in the Spectrum, which was released in America in September. It's actually out here in a couple of weeks. So you can pre-order it now on Amazon. You can get them both on Amazon. And if you read them and if you like them, please leave a review. So that's the plug stuff for the books. But here's a question that I want to put out to everybody, just out of interest. Okay. Is everyone here parents of autistic children? Just put it into the chat. Just let me know. So the live stream chat, which I have running in tandem with the Zoom one. Yeah. Okay, so most are parents of autistic children. We have a couple of teachers in here as well. Okay, interesting. Parent and children. Okay. Yeah, because I think sometimes, because I love the variation that I get in my shows, whether they're live, because I'm just back from tour of America. I came back at the start of December. I'm away again now in May, and I always love the variation of people that I get. So there's a couple of professionals here, there's a couple of teachers, there's a big mixture. So I'm married to a probably autistic man. I've just got that one from Anir from Linda. Really enjoy that. People are saying, I'm beginning to think my daughter might be. So here's the thing, is I have never, ever, ever, ever met anybody who has believed their children or themselves to be autistic and been wrong. So that's my take, because people say, oh, I don't know, she might be, and I need an expert to tell me. But that's open for debate, because at one stage, sure, people needed diagnoses to be officially recognized, the LGBTQIA plus community, and that was so stigmatized, so there's nobody, if it's true for you, it's true. Because I never get the idea of, oh, everybody saying they're autistic will, it'll basically open systems up for abuse. Where why would anybody want to dive headfirst into ableism, discrimination, negative press, and everything else? Myself and my wife are seeing indications that our 2-year-old son is on the spectrum. Okay, so here's an open question to everybody, I suppose, is what indicated to you first that your children were autistic? Just out of interest, because it's interesting to see some of the, the perspectives, because with me, it was lining up the toy cars. What kind of indications were there, among everybody? Just put them into the chat, while you come up and think about them. So particular and specific behaviors and routines, okay. Aggression, noisy in social situations, like the schoolyard, okay. Sound pretty standard. Lining up cars, yes. Lining up cars, there's somebody else where I still line up stuff on my desk. At Fort NTI, I have like all my pens and they all have a different function. So repetitive behavior, routines, eating disorder. About 30% of girls with eating disorders are undiagnosed autistic. Yeah, I've heard that before as well. Repetitive behavior, lack of empathy, anxiety, lack of social skills, no friends, repeatedly talking about topics that nobody is interested in around them. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much all the answers, but between this feed here and the live stream as well. But I will give you the actual main and largest issue that autistic people experience, young and old. Because out there in the world, you will see, and I'm aiming this, I'm just going to say, just from this room here, for Mark, and for another one is Hannah, and the last one, who put up pretty much similar comments in here, is these kind of like signs and indications. I lost the comment now. I had it here, but I lost it through the maze of responses. But there's one key thing that holds autistic people back. There's only one, right? One thing, and it's this unconscious negative bias toward us. Okay, whenever people think of autism, they automatically go to the negative space. They automatically go to a negative place in their mind. And you'll see out in the world, because one thing that I want to do is to protect my own, as an autistic young people up and down the country, because there's a lot of scary marketing tactics and fear that exist out there. Things like ABA, bleach, vitamins, all of these things that will ease behaviors and so on and so on. Where being autistic doesn't have to be something that's feared. It really, really doesn't. Where back in the 1940s or 50s, certainly with my parents, and maybe some of your parents as well, as doctors would have said back in the 50s and 60s, that children were anxious because they were left-handed. Oh, the child's left-handed, so they're going to be very anxious. But the being left-handed wasn't the cause of the anxiety. Left-handedness doesn't cause anxiety. but being made to write with the right did cause anxiety, to basically have to do things in a different way that is most natural to you. That's what causes anxiety. That's the choker. And people don't seem to get that. People never, ever, ever seem to get that. And it's quite sad. It really is quite sad. So that's the same. And I am saying this now, autism doesn't cause anxiety. It doesn't. It's the being made to fit in with your peers. That's what makes you anxious. That's what makes people anxious. Where anxiety, the main question that's going off in your mind and in your body is, am I doing the right thing? That's always the way it is. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what other people around me expect me to be doing? That's the way it is. Because I mean, for us here, like for me especially, I was a mental health social worker for years, and even in my current elite coaching group, mental health is something that we cover a lot. We cover it a lot because autistic young people genuinely think that they are anxious simply because they're autistic and want to be pretty much coached out of being autistic. It doesn't work that way. Where if you look at all the negative stuff that exists in the world whenever it comes to autism and autistic people, then is it any wonder that we don't have the confidence in ourselves that we should have? That's the thing. That's the real catch whenever you think about it. So moving on, that's the main thing that we struggle with, the unconscious negative bias that people have toward us. The things that people say, like, even if you look at the definition, right? Now, for everything that you said, right, for everything that came up, all the indications of autism and whatever, it comes from this. Now, you may be wondering in your head, just give us a checklist of how I can get my children to get through transitions. I'm sorry, that's not what this is. Where people want checklists, people want an easy fix, people want something quick and gratifying. And that's not what this is about. That's not what this is for, because it's a long process. Now, the reason why autistic teens, young people, young adults struggle with transitions in life is because of a lifetime of people having unconscious negative bias toward them that they can do no right. And it's not surprising. I don't blame parents. I don't blame people, because this is the definition that we're left with. Okay. A neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by social difficulties and/or obsessive and repetitive behaviors whilst having narrow interests. Now look at that definition, right? Disorder, social difficulties, obsessive, repetitive behaviors, narrow interests. Like that's 8 negative words in one small definition. Right. I'll take you back to whenever I was 17. Whenever I was 17, the first gen of this came out, a smartphone. Okay. So I had Google now in my pocket. And I was told that I was autistic whenever I was 17. That's when I was told. And I remember looking up that definition and thinking, that's not me. Me as a young testosterone-filled boy, soon to be man, about to go to university the following year, where people always wonder, people say to me, because I get this all the time, we do corporate training for the world's biggest companies, right? We have loads and loads and loads of training. And they all say to me, Jude, we just want to make autistic people comfortable. We want them to have a safe space. But how can a safe space exist at home, in schools, in society, in corporate workplaces? That's the definition that underpins us. That's what drives the negative narrative. Pretty much that definition. And that's from the Oxford English Dictionary. That's the definition. And it's a very negative definition. That's the label that we're attached to. Most people will agree with that definition. But as a question, Can you see how it could be quite hurtful? Now, are there any autistic people here? I should have asked at the start from both the live stream and this room in here. Are there any out of interest? We know. Yes, 3 teens. Claire, are you autistic yourself? Just from the live stream, we have a line of no's in there. We have a line of no's. Okay. None? We've no autistic people at all? Ah, that's a shame. But, so let's say, so what I want you to do is see it from my side, right? Now, this is a definition that was bestowed upon us by what other people around us think about us. This is what it looks like to the untrained eye or the naked eye. Now, by the way, the stereotype is that autistic people lack empathy. Now, how empathetic of them to have a definition like that for us and your wonderful children. How empathetic of them. Now, can you imagine what it would be like for your self-esteem if you were programmed in such a way that had a negative definition like that? How would it make you feel to have that label attached to you, have that definition attached to you? It would be very, very hard. That's why a lot of the big campaign work that we do, we're actively trying with NTI to change the definition. Because for me personally, I'm very active in places like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Like, I'm very active everywhere and do a lot of campaign work and trying to bring the public perception of autism to a different way. Claire said, have a look at double empathy. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, it's the double empathy problem. And thanks for highlighting that, because with the double empathy problem in society, we actually cover that extensively. We cover that extensively in our corporate stuff, where double empathy problem is two groups of people, whether it's neurodivergent people, autistic people, and neurotypical people, and there's just they don't understand each other. And empathy presents and can be in different ways to different people. So that's what it is. I mean, the double empathy problem, that's something that I implore everybody else to look at as well. So thanks for highlighting that, Claire, because it's really, really important. Where it's becoming more mainstream now, but with NTI, we've existed now quite a while. And through all the workshops that we do, more and more people are starting to know about it, which to me can only be a good thing. These are other points. Autism doesn't cause anxiety. It's like saying left-handedness causes anxiety. It's the being made to write with the right hand that gives anxious-like presentation. It doesn't cause depression either. It's not a mental health problem, and it's not like OCD, where people think that, the lining up the toy cars and all of that, oh, it's like OCD or whatever. It's not like that. It's a different profile, where for us, we like order and like things basically to be in a certain way. That's what we like. But OCD is different in that if something isn't done a certain way, it's the belief that something bad will happen. Okay, autistic people can all have all of the above, but only as separate entities. The main two reasons for this are organic mental health conditions, and like in my case, not being accepted and being made to fit in like everybody else. So I want to ask a question out into the audience on both sides, in this room and in the live stream, is as far as transitions, like that's why we're all here. That's what we're all talking about. But just so I know, what specific transitions are your kids finding difficult? For me, we moved house whenever I was 8. We moved out of the house, where I lined up the toy cars in the window whenever I was very young. We moved out of there whenever I was 8, and I swear it took me about 2 years to come around to the new house. It took me about 2 years to come around. And my mum and dad, because they're smaller, a little bit frailer, a little bit older, where they actually downsized to an apartment. And they lived there for, what was it, 20 years, more than 20 years. And even the change then of having to visit them in a different house, where I can still kind of be iffy about change now and again. I can. So I'm not immune to it, but I can certainly deal with it. I can certainly cope with it, and it doesn't affect my life. So a couple of ones that are coming through. There's a lot of ones in the live stream. School to university is very difficult. Yeah, that's one about most of my coaching clients at the minute. Like, I mean, 5 of them are at university, have just kind of transitioned into university from last year, and then a couple of others are going from work to are going from university to work. Okay. Childhood to adulthood within social care and health services. That's just a point from Donna, and Donna, I'll respond to that. Is do you know what's really tough? Like, this is typically why people take me on to mentor their kids, is because, see, after 18, there's no public services. Take it from me. Now, I'm not somebody that wants to unnecessarily bash the NHS, but the NHS, just waiting lists are just too long. And normally, whenever adult social care gets round to, like, sometimes waiting lists can be 4 to 5 years, depending on how long. And Linda has pointed out the HSE is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. School changes, transition to secondary, COVID, masks, etc. And I mean, as far as the autistic population, which is 2% of the population around the UK and Ireland. So if you kind of key that in, if there's, that's nearly a million people, a million autistic people in the UK, nearly a million, about 750,000, about 750,000, that, the whole COVID thing, just the regulations, lockdown, the change, that just didn't work. Mask wearing, everything just wasn't considered. Now, this could very easily turn into a seminar about how horrifically badly the pandemic was handled. But there is relevancy here whenever it comes to the autistic population. An already traumatized and anxious population has been made even more so given the mishandling of the pandemic, the mandatory mask wearing and not trusting the public to act responsibly, like even not allowing people to go a walk a mile from their house on their own. Like, that was really, really detrimental to a lot of people. That's why, like, as far as the NTI, like, we had kind of like an advice line throughout, and it never stopped. It never stopped, which was interesting. I was just going to say a couple other ones in there. Teen on to adult, sixth form to university. I would say the hardest transition that I ever did was moving out on my own. Was moving out from my parents' house to my own house. I bought my own house whenever I was 22. It was just before Ethan was born. And that was a hard one for me. That was a really, really hard one to manage, because the thing is, with transitions, I mean, with a live stream, like, so it's actually very interesting. Most are on the cusp of turning 18 by the look of it. I'm just going to try and get to the bottom of the chat. Oh yeah, no, I got that just from Linda, and then from the live stream. There's 2 Lindas. There's Linda in this one. There's Linda Talbot here, and then there's Linda Gregory on the live stream. So I'm sorry if I mixed your comments up and the responses up within it. So that's the thing, is that whenever we live a life all the time, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, the negative definitions, it's going to make us fear transitions, and it's going to make us feel more dependent than what we actually are. Oh, there's a question in here. How do you help someone go for an interview and support them when you know they'll be interviewed, but it feels like they are ticking boxes? See, as far as interviewing and job seeking and career seeking, that's a big part of what I do in the mentoring with the youngsters, and we always have a lot of fun with it, where there's different ways. Now, the thing is, whenever it comes to working, and this is all the young people, all of them, and all the young adults that I work with, I always tell them, and I always implore them, and I work in partnership with them to do it. Get a job that you want, that you love, that you like. Because if you're doing something that you don't want to do, the interview is going to feel a bit hard. Now, there are alternative methods of interviewing, and there's alternative methods of being able to showcase your talents and your strengths in a more accessible way. There are, and I've actually explored that with a lot of mine over the years, to be able to help them transition into careers and be able to land the jobs that they want, the careers that they want, and then go forward from there. Because you're quite right, the tick box and thing, because this is what the autistic existence is actually like. You're always living in eternal fear that you're doing the right thing. Am I doing the right thing by other people around me? Am I doing the right thing? Am I upsetting anybody? Am I X, Y, and Z? Do you know what I mean? So for the anonymous question that was put in, I hope I answered your question. Keep the questions coming, keep them coming, even through the live stream as well. There was another question that's just come in from the other monitor. Hi Jude, do you currently have any spaces available for mentoring? Yes, I do. And by the way, I have an email address that I'll give out to everybody. The only thing I would say, with working with me, is that the young person has to be open to it. Where it's no good coming on a call with me and saying, it's like this, it's like that, it's the other. Because the first question I'm going to say is, with your young person, are they open to it? And if you say, I haven't spoke about it with them yet, then the conversation's just, well, look, I'll be really gentle with you. Go and talk to them, see what they think, show them my content. And if they like what they see and they want to talk to me, then we'll talk. So I hope that answers your question, and I'll give my email address to you. I'll just say, Dan, can you send that just in the private part? For anybody else that wants it as well, just ask them, it'll be PM to you. So that's the thing whenever it comes to autism. Everything is just blamed on autism. People think that autism causes anxiety and causes everything else. It doesn't. It's just that we're not accepted for who we are. And by the way, I'm keeping this actually good for the anybody that watches it later on, because I want to outline how autistic people can make positive steps in overcoming transitions, because I waited long enough for the world around me to change. Oh, I want the world to stop being ableist. I want to wait for the perfect opportunity, to do what I want to do. Where if you're an autistic young person, you have to take responsibility as well. Having a positive outcome is in your hands. You are in more control than what you think. That's the truth. You're in way more control than what you think. And how you can get in control and stay in control is by setting goals. If you set a goal, you set your sights on something that you want to do, there's no reason why you can't achieve it. Where this always happens. If I say to any young person or anybody here, this is the first question I always ask, is always, what is your ideal scenario? So let's take a particular date, like whatever date it is on the day I'm speaking to them, then look for the year later, so I say, what does that look like? What is the ideal scenario for you in that? And often they'll say, I don't know. Because there seems to be a lack of confidence in setting goals, where how I became independent and successful was by setting goals and having somebody hold me accountable, that I would achieve them, that I would do well, that I would learn from my mistakes and benefit from the expertise of somebody else. Because, I had mentoring and coaching whenever I was younger, and it changed my life. It changed my life forever. And it worked. And it's left me being able to set goals and set targets. And that's exactly what I pass on to people. Because it's so important. It's so important, because if you're not looking forward to anything, then you have nothing to work toward. And if you have nothing to work toward, you'll not get to where you want to be. And that's it. Where it's very easy for me to put up just advice for parents. Oh, do this, do that. But I want to advise the autistic young people as well. You have to take responsibility. Now, it doesn't matter what you want to do. It's your life. And soon you will be grown up and you'll have to earn your own money and pretty much solidify your own place in the world. And how you will do that is by setting goals, setting targets, but most importantly, doing something that you enjoy. I remember when I was 15, I actually said to a teacher that I wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people. I wanted to help marginalized groups and all of that. I took an interest in it. I remember a teacher laughed at me for saying that. Oh, sure, Jude, you have no social skills. You'll not be able to do that. But I mean, as a generic rule of thumb, social workers, I mean, they don't have the best reputation in the world, do they? And are very well known for not being very good with people. So it seemed like a logical choice at the time. I'm only joking. That's way more nuanced than that. But I knew what I wanted to do, but I suppressed it. Because always after a few sessions, whenever I build up the trust with the young people, I always say, whenever you said you didn't know, were you telling me the truth? Because if you ask your young people now, right, and just let me know if you've had the same experience. If I ask, or if you ask your young people, what do you want to do? What do you want to be whenever you leave school? Do they say, I don't know, or are they very solid in what they want? Claire, I'm just saying that careful. I'm training. I don't know what that means. Oh, careful, you're training as a social worker. Escape, quick, run for the hills, Claire, run. I'm only kidding. You know what? For the most part, I really liked it. It was only whenever my first book took off that I moved into training. I had other business interests and investments anyway, but I got into this and I got into like the coaching and the mentoring full time, and then the business consultancy naturally followed. So it's a worthwhile career if you get into the right field in the right area. It's just coming in from the live stream since I asked that question was like, Jude, how did you know? And because it happens all the time. I've actually tried to count them. So over the last 7 or 8 years, I have mentored over 1,000 autistic young people, and they have all said, whenever I said to them at the start, what do you want to be next year? Or what do you want to be whenever you're older? And they all say, I don't know. But after a few weeks, they do know. So that is very interesting. So that's one thing. Setting goals, setting targets, knowing what you want to do and going after it. And that's what I think, actually, Claire, that you said. It kept me really well in social work, because normally whenever you work in that field, in that arena, it's a lot of like crisis response. And a lot of crisis response is being able to break down a situation, join up all the dots and say, right, this is what we're going to do, finding a pattern and finding the logic in any situation. And I think that served me really well. And I think it still does, in the mentoring that I do and the business consultancy. Here's another thing. If mental health is a constant struggle, that's okay. Speak to your healthcare provider and be open and honest about how you feel. Because I wasn't for a long time. I really wasn't. I was just a proud, defiant, chest-beating young man that thought, I will conquer the world. I will put up a nice couple of selfies on Facebook. I'll hide my true identity and I will be fine, and then people will get off my back. But inside, I was deeply unconfident. I didn't like being around people. I forced myself to be around people. I forced myself to do a lot of things to try and appear normal. But really, I just ended up appearing more unnatural to people than my natural self that I show all the time now. And I'm not going to say that I'm pro or anti anything, but be open-minded, because whenever I was younger, I was like, I'm never taking medication, never, ever, for anxiety. Never taken anxiety medication ever. I'm never taking antidepressants, but whenever I did, they worked, they helped. CBT for me was very, very good. I benefited an awful lot from it. I thought it was great. There's a mixed bag. There's different horses for different courses. And whenever it comes to your mental health, that's your real wealth. That's your real wealth. I can promise you. Another one is having a mentor. I still have one. I meet with him every week. His name's Rob. Hi, Rob. Who's watching on the live stream. He's just sent in the waving emoji and the chat box and the live stream. So hi, Rob. Thanks for coming. And you know what? We've been through a long kind of journey together, and it's something that's really benefited to me. And of course, without your knowledge and skills and help and love, I wouldn't be able to be mentoring other young people now myself. Exercise. Now, these things all sound very simple, but whenever I ask the young people, do you exercise? Do you leave the house much? Do you go for a walk? Most say no. But exercise is so important. You need sunlight. You need to move your body. You need to build up a bit of a sweat now and again. You need to exercise. You need to keep going. Now, gaming is not exercising. It's not. Sitting in the house reading comics all the time, turning pages, that is not exercise. Exercise is going out for a walk every day. I challenge you, because I still do it. Every single day, go out for a walk for 10 minutes. Go out for a 10-minute walk. That's all. That's it. I know it's just like 30 minutes a day. Now, I'm a very busy person, but doing my 10 minutes a day, it helps. It gets me out, and it lifts the mood. And here's another thing: never feel that your passions and your interests are unimportant, or they won't get you anywhere, or you must do what others expect of you. It's your life. Because there's a big injustice among perceptions of autism and autistic people. Hope that to put the chair down, is that there's a stigma about obsessive and repetitive behaviors, right? Now, obsessive and repetitive behaviors is one of the key stereotypes of being autistic. And if you're autistic, you're obsessed with something. But say if you're not autistic, you're an expert, which is really unsettling to me. Where I collect Titanic memorabilia. Okay, I love Titanic memorabilia, quite an extensive collection. And people would say I'm obsessed with the Titanic. But then there's some of these Titanic experts that are well known on Facebook and consulted with the movie. And it's like some of the things they're putting up are wrong. And I'm like, but they're the expert and I'm just the guy obsessed with it. And I always recommend this. You can make a career and a lifestyle of what you want. Okay, as you can have real, true freedom. You know, whether that's, you know, happiness, you know, wealth, independence, real, genuine freedom. And how I get that is I am doing what I want to do. I'm in a role that I love. I'm running several businesses and I love it. It's great. And then the mentoring as well. It's great. I love that. I love all of those things. They really make me happy. They make me smile and I get results. And for you, you can do the same. If you're an autistic young person and you're watching this, you can achieve the same thing. You can. I promise you. You can achieve the very same thing. Okay? It's your life. And it's interesting. Sometimes, like for anybody that's here, but between here and the live stream, if you've got kids that are, you know, maybe going on to school age or whatever, or maybe going on to university age, whenever I ask them on Zoom, you know, that idea, you know, what's your ideal scenario? What does that look like? They always look at their parents sitting beside them. And then I say, you know, it's interesting, you know, that you looked at your parent. It's like seeking validation all the time. It's seeking validation. And you'll notice that now, like see any time that your autistic kids are asked a question by somebody else and then they look at you. That's because they're afraid to say the wrong thing. There's expectation. Am I saying the right thing? Am I doing what my parents and my family expect me to do? Where, as I always say to the young people, it's your life. If you want to become a collectible stamp dealer, then you become a collectible stamp dealer if that really makes you happy. where you can make a career and a life out of everything. Now, see, in the age of the internet, there's no such thing as what even my grandparents would have called a proper job, as one would say it, a 9 to 5 working for a big corp. It's different. We're in a new kind of evolutionary phase of working and careers. And in this information age, autistic people can benefit from that greatly, where anybody can monetize and make a career out of their expertise. It's really something worth thinking about. It really, really is. So here's for parents, caregivers, and professionals can help autistic young people through transitionary times. And it doesn't matter because it can be young people as well. It's always focus on what they can do instead of what they can't do. Okay. Remove the unconscious negative bias that believes autistic people can't socialize, can't communicate, can't have an independent life, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Because as a marginalized group, we autistics are constantly described in terms of what we aren't, in terms of what we are. It's always what we're not, where, oh, Jude's not this, Jude can't do this, Jude can't socialize, Jude can't play games, Jude can't cope with weddings, Jude can't remember to bring home milk at night. But there's never the what Jude can do and what Jude's good at. Now that's come more and more, and I think it of myself. And that's how you can really be heroes for your autistic kids and young people. Always highlight and nurture what they can do. Because you never know. The passion and the ingenuity and the expertise that your autistic young people have can one day change the world. Could change the world forever. You never know. Because I always say, if Einstein was born today, then the chances are that somebody would have said to him, now, little Albert, you need to stop obsessing about space and time and the nature of reality and everything else. That's where it is. That's what happens. Now, this is a sound theory with all the negativity out there, because there's all these businesses and services that want to cure autism or ease its symptoms and all of this. Autistic brilliance has fueled mankind for millennia. Why would anybody want to suppress that and make it feel as if it's a disorder? Because you genuinely don't know. Now, at the same time, okay, I'm not naive. I know that there are autistic young people out there that will need a lot more support than I would. But every single person, regardless of level of ability or perceived ability, deserves dignity and respect, to have their strengths highlighted all the time, because everybody has strengths, everybody has wishes, everybody has wants in life, and most importantly, everybody has feelings. So no matter what, this is applicable to if your child has varying levels of care need or independence. Because everyone has passions and talents, always highlight those. And another point is listening to autistic voices. Lived experience is important. Allies are good too, but learning from our experiences will benefit you greatly. Where we've been there. Now, I know the saying goes, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. But the truth is, collectively, we know what it's like. We've been there. We've lived that life of, although we're all different in taste and preference, the way we've been treated is always the same. Okay? What you need to do is you need to work collaboratively with your autistic young people, allow them to make their own decisions and pursue a life on their terms. That's where their true happiness lies. Because I get calls lots of times that say, hi, Jude, will you be able to coach my autistic daughter to broaden her interests? And I say, no. Where if that's what she's interested in, then that's what she's interested in, and wants to make a career out of it, then that's her life. Or even other ones that say, Jude, my autistic young person doesn't want to join the family business or take over. Can you coach them to encourage them to take on the family business? And I say, no, because that's not what they want. It's their life. It's their life, and that's the way it should be treated, especially in the 17-18 kind of age bracket. So here's another question that I have for everybody, okay? I'd love to know, with all of your autistic children, right? With all of your autistic children, what are their gifts, right? What are they really, really good at? What makes them wonderful? I would love to know. I'm just going to go onto the Q&A box just while people are giving their answers. I'm going to answer your question, Donna. How do you support a young person that they believe they have a misdiagnosis? You see, this is very, very common, and a lot of my clients is that they say, "Not that diagnosis is wrong," and I mean, a lot of people are diagnosed, but the diagnoses are very, very seldom wrong. But seldom to never. I've never heard anybody believe themselves or their children to be autistic and being wrong. But it's all about building up the self-confidence. That's classic denial, like the 5 stages of grief. Denial, anger, resentment, bargaining, and then acceptance. It's going through that cycle properly and being nurtured through that, where I've actually worked with one at the moment. Actually, a young girl, what is she, 20? Yeah, 20. And at the start was like, "I'm not autistic." I was like, right, okay. And had been diagnosed. I mean, professionals had seen her over the years and said, "Oh, that's not me. That's my profile. I'm worth more than that." And it's just about changing perspective and say, but those gifts, like they're positive, autistic traits, that's positive. And then eventually getting to the stage where, like me, being autistic has been the cornerstone of my success, my drive, my passion, my thirst for knowledge, wanting to help people and everything else, where it's just about kind of reframing. And that's a big piece of work that I do with young people, Donna. I hope that answers your question. So I'm going to go back into the, I'm just going to say there's been some things coming in. Very proud of them. Sensitive to injustice. I know that comes up quite a lot, actually. It's come up a couple of times just in the live stream feed, which is on the monitor beside me. That comes up. Keen sense of justice, very good artist, photographic memory, loves music, excellent singer, great chess player, world-class video game designer. Oh, very nice. Okay, so there's a lot of good things in there. Very sensitive. Is there anything else? My son is big into technology, gaming, has amazing verbal skills, and is hilariously sarcastic. Oh, no, he's not. Sorry, I had to throw it on there. The stereotype that autistic people don't get jokes. So thank you for that, Linda Talbot. Environmental buff and a drummer. Funny enough, I was a drummer myself, Claire. I was a drummer. Whenever you have 3 kids and a penny in the house, the drums do have to go. So I haven't had drums in a long, long time, but that's a really good one. Building Lego without instructions. Never been a fan of Lego. I think whenever I was a child, I stood in one and it deterred me ever since. Bearing grudges isn't a gift. Brilliant with numbers, really caring, lots of attention to detail, fantastic work ethic. Oh, I love that. Learning multiple languages with ease. That's really cool too. I like that. But I'll tell you what though, I have a slight issue with everything that you've just said. Okay, so let's turn the clock back. Remember whenever I asked earlier, what indications did you have that your children were autistic? I mean, what identified it to you, or what did it look like to you? And this is what I got back from the live stream and between in here. Okay, so struggles to make friends, struggles at school, a fiery temper, doesn't like to mix, only eats certain foods, doesn't like to socialize, doesn't make eye contact, very ritualistic routines, repetitive behavior lines on a wall, chronic anxiety, lining up cars, difficulty at nursery, aggression in social situations like the schoolyard. But here's the thing. Do you know all the lovely things that you said just now? Why couldn't you have said those at the start? Just an open question, now that I've pointed that out. And the reason why was because the main issue that autistic young people face is unconscious negative bias. Within this, everyone, your unconscious negative bias 1, where it took you to the negative space. It took you to a sad space rather than a happy one, because you've all been able to highlight to me in this through the comments and everything else that your autistic young people have gifts and talents. There's things that they're good at. Where any time in future anybody asks you, oh, how did you know your child was autistic? They were great at art, they were great drummers, they were great this, but instead everybody went the other way. Which is, and I do that exercise at all of my corporate events, my after dinners, even on my tours, where whenever I do that exercise, where I even get people to shout out or, vote on keypads, to go up on the screen, what would indicate, your kids being autistic. And then I say, well, tell me some good stuff. And I say, well, why didn't you say that the first time? Like, I've had theaters go dead silent, like literally stone silent, that people just don't know what to say. They have no idea what to do or anything else. So it's just interesting though, how does it make you feel now that we're here? Couple in the other feed makes me feel quite bad, actually. And don't, you know what, that's not what this is designed to do. It's not designed to make you feel bad. It's designed to highlight that whenever people talk about autism and autistic people, the brain goes to another place. So Claire said, how do gifts show someone is autistic compared to a neurotypical? Where there's always going to be a certain collection of characteristics that would define an autistic person rather than a neurotypical person, where those kind of stereotypes, yes, probably in some instances there are grains of truth in them, where, for me, I don't really like socializing in big groups and all of that. And I rock from side to side in chairs and I fidget with little STEM toys, even like this little squidgy dinosaur that I've been playing with since the start of this show. And have brought with me on tour and anything else, where it's always the negative space that people go to. Surely though, the only reason any of us brought our kids for assessment was because of the struggles they had because of their surroundings. In our case surroundings outside our homes, such as school and parties, not because of their lovely qualities. Yes, you're quite right. Now, there are challenges that autistic people face. Of that, there's no doubt. Of that, there is absolutely no doubt. But Linda, to help build confidence, to help build independence, it's pointing out their lovely qualities and what they're good at. Now, the thing is that bringing kids for assessments and stuff like that, it doesn't even always bring the help that people need. It doesn't. Where, yes, for schools and housing and welfare, yes, a diagnosis is very, very useful. But that's the thing, though, is that yes, some people need diagnoses. Absolutely. I mean, with another one of my my businesses that I'm working with is RTN, and what we want to do is we want to actually expedite the diagnostic procedure and have it accessible and affordable to as many people as possible, because people wait too long and situations can exacerbate. But on the whole of it, there are challenges that any human being faces. But how confidence is built is by highlighting the good stuff all the time and championing the talents rather than constantly highlighting the deficits. I hope that answers your question. Because success has been figured out. This is cut and dry. There's no debate. There's no argument. It's case closed, of what the secret ingredient is for success. And it's not even a secret anymore. It's all mindset. Success, it's mindset. If you don't have a winning mentality, then you're not going to win. It's as simple as that. If you don't set goals and you don't set realistic actions in order to achieve those goals, then that's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Where if you have a losing mindset, and because what I'm always about is taking action. You have to take action. You have to want to do it for it to work and to have any real effect. So, so Claire has asked, and very rightfully so, how much do you assume that parents highlight the negative and not the positive? That's not our story. Absolutely, Claire, and I agree with you. But how I measure this is by the comments that I get. Whenever I ask, how do you know that your child is autistic? Just scroll up, and it's the same in the live stream feed as well. Scroll up through the comments and see what people wrote in. Now, in general, because you know what? There are some people that say to me, oh, Jude, they say a good thing at the start when I say that. But it's overwhelmingly negative most of the time, because whenever I come on stage at a live show or at an open seminar like this, and I get all positives, I know I can retire. My work on the earth is done, but it's not. Where all you need to do is just scroll up. I'll read them out again. You know, the negative things. So aggressive behavior, very particular, specific patterns and routines, lack of empathy, doesn't make friends properly, anxiety, repetitive behavior, same routines, lack of eye contact, lining up toys, inappropriate. Do you see where it's going though, Claire? Does that answer your question? Do you know what I mean? It's like whenever I ask at the start and it's all negative, and it is interesting you said you were leading. Watch the video again, because I only ever say, what indicated to you that your children were autistic? What did it look like to you? That's all I say. Because whenever I say it in real life, like whenever I say it at the start, whenever I kind of got that out there, it was kind of more negatively angled, but I refrained from it intentionally, because everybody had the opportunity to say something really good. But people go to the negative space and the overwhelming aspect of it. And I implore you, watch the tape, watch the recording back, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Right? You'll see it. You'll be like, But also, here's a quote, and it's always attributed to Albert Einstein. If a fish is always measured on its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its life believing it is stupid. Where that's what the autistic experience is like. That's genuinely what it's like. Is we're fish who are constantly judged on our abilities to climb trees. Where instead of highlighting that we're wonderful fish and we're great swimmers and everything else, you know, it'll make life much better if that's highlighted. Just a question has come into the chat. Would you be more encouraged if you asked the positive questions to parents first? You know, Claire, you know, being really, really gentle with you, having it neutral, it highlights unconscious negative bias. Where if I say the gifts thing at the start, it's missing the point. Somebody actually said from the other live stream, just a comment, because you can't see each other's, said, Jude, that exercise was incredibly profound, and you're quite right in that your mind always goes to a negative space first, and that's the way it tends to go, which is fair. So Marcus said it's not how it works. To deliver the impact, it needs to be done the way it was done. Exactly. Mark, that's exactly why. So thank you for that. You know, for this exercise to have the power that it has, you just go neutral first. Where, like, even people saying, you know, I do this in corporate, you know, what's one word to describe autism? People saying struggle, routine, obsessive, repetitive, you know, things like that. And then I say, give me one positive word later, and they say creative, innovative, caring, things like that. And I say, well, why didn't you say those words first? I hope that answers your question. So that's the secret ingredient. It's all about mindset. That's really, really crucially important. And here are the key ingredients. Okay, of becoming a proud and independent autistic adult, and how parents can support their young people to be proud and independent autistic adults. Okay, to support autistic young people and parents to develop a stronger mindset and lean toward independence. That's what you need, is to develop that stronger mindset. Okay, and that's what I do. I help people to do that, to develop that winning mindset, because as this cliche goes, winners win. It's as simple as that. Where if you've got a positive mental outlook, and it can be taught, and I have helped thousands of people to do it. There's a way to do it. Go after what you love and have somebody hold you accountable for it. Listen to autistic voices who've been down the road before. Okay, that's why I'm very grateful to you for having come here. And to understand the impact of negative bias toward autism and how to overcome that, that's what I hope you come away with tonight, is to have an idea of the negative bias that exists. Because whenever I say a plain open question, it's a negative response first, and when I prompt a positive one, then it makes people reflect, and I hope it has done the same with you. Remove the mask. Masking is very common among autistic people. I did it myself. You have to bring on a different character. Becoming proud of who you are and not allowing negativities to stunt your growth. Where I always had good talents and qualities and strengths, it's just I didn't always recognize them. Okay? Always source and accept the best supports, right? And make sure you take your lemon juice, right? You may be thinking, what's that all about whenever it comes to the lemon juice? What I've done for every single person over the last number of weeks who has attended this masterclass, I've reduced down the Becoming a Proud and Independent Autistic Adult course to £37. It's normally £499, but it's £37, and it includes a one-to-one strategy call with me live. And it's mental health content, transformational content that dive into the autistic mental health psyche, and develop the tools and knowledge to become independent, gain freedom, be happier. And it's a sort of a collaborative piece, and parents and normally autistic young people and teens can do that together. And within both, I'll put the link for it into the chat so that you can claim it. For everybody that's come here with your email address, it will be the £37, because and that does include the one-to-one consultation, and they're normally worth £325 on its own. Because I love to chat to people, I love to help where I can, and I love to, repay the thanks of having come along to this. So there is a link that's put in the chat. Also, there will be a link after this video as well, to if you want to look into it, have a look at it, see what you think, see if it's good for you as well. So the floor is now open to questions. Thank you so much for coming along. I really, really appreciate it. I mean, due to the influx of people, the number of people that's here, I'd need to take the questions kind of tactically to lead us up to time. So thank you so much for coming. Another question. Okay, Catherine, this is a good one because this has come up a couple of times. How do you feel post-COVID is going to disadvantage autistic people? What should we do to force people to listen? That is a really, really good question. It's just sort of the change back to normality, which is for me very, very much welcomed. I mean, the pandemic was like, for me as somebody that I've been sort of social distancing my entire life, it still was very, very hard. And it's even the whole COVID pandemic has affected people so differently. But I think the change of society and routine and the way the world works has been felt way more acutely by autistic young people than anybody else. Another one, where do we go for inquiries about mentoring for autistic young people? Well, I've got that the course there on the site. What I would strongly recommend is going through the first one first, because I do have to say it, it's not like I don't offer like an advice line or anything like that where people can come on, is that there has to be a readiness and a willingness to put the time in. But my website is neurodiversity-training.net. for anybody that's there. Oh, that's the announcement from the last session for this one. So that's the very last one. So I just want to thank everybody for coming. Graham has said, can you help build social skills? That's interesting, the whole notion of social skills, Graham, because autistic people socialize autistically. Whenever you say, can you help build social skills, relative to who? That's the thing, because I'm not as social as my family, but I socialize in my own way. Now, if anything, because you'll see all of these, and it's a real warning for all the parents out there, you'll see all of these social skills training so that your kids can fit in and all of this. It doesn't work. If anything, they can actually cause more trauma because of being constantly told that the way they are is wrong, and they need to build social skills to be more acceptable to those over there. I don't help build social skills, Graham. I help autistic young people to be grateful, appreciative, thankful, and at peace with the skills they already have, because to me, they're perfect the way they are. I hope that answers your question. Claire, I asked a question earlier about moving house. If you check back, you'll see the full question. How do you cope as a child when you moved? My son was only 10. I was 9 when I moved, and it was hard. It was very, very hard. Oh, I've just got it here. We have to move house soon. Our landlord passed away. We've been here years and love our house, so it's very upsetting for us all. My autistic son is angry. He wants his room the same, the garden the same, the neighbors the same, the shops nearby the same, basically everything the same, and he does not want to change. The thing is that it's just whenever you're moving house, kind of show pictures, like with things like property websites and stuff like that. Now, that's what my parents did with me. There was like a brochure of the houses and the development, and I was given pictures to look at to see, and I was like, yeah, okay, I can buy into this. We're showing pictures, even driving by the new place now and again to say this will be our new house, so you're prepared for it, and so on and so on. I hope that answers your question. I hope that helps you in some way. And as far as I can see, questions wise, that seems to be everything. So for everybody that's here, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for coming along. There is the link for the Autism and Mental Health Survival Guide at £37, down from 500. I hope you really enjoyed it. And for anybody that wants to reach out to me or connect with me, you can do so on our social media channels. My ones, I'm on LinkedIn as Jude Morrow, Neurodiversity Trained International and everything, and Jude Morrow as well. And my website is www.neurodiversity-training.net. So everyone, thank you so much again for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, wherever you are, and I will catch up with you all very, very soon. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.